ha ha.
You can see me during the countdown, right? Unfortunately, these guys
I can
can't.
see you
But
dancing.
you can see that dance? Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up to our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop Podcast live stream, aka spoiler alert, episode 771, wherein we will review some of this past week's comics as well as nothing else. Probably nothing else. It's going to be just that. It's me and Brian today. We're going to blow through these shits. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street in Philadelphia, PA. A super rad shop which caters to super rad folks. Joining me tonight are Brian.
I are here. Here I are in the flesh.
Sup, fellas?
Hey. I am the multitudes.
Now comes the part. I read the discussion topic. Throw to Brian to introduce the reboot question. Brian, introduce the reboot question.
Oh yeah. Well, I was wondering the other day if it's a difficult question to phrase. What are your thoughts on a reboot versus a I don't even know what you call it, like a return to something, right? That's something that's been popular for the last, I don't know, 5, 6 years, 7 years. There's been a lot of like, let's go back to that same universe, but it's now, 20 years later, Coming to America 2, Murphy Brown. Those are probably the two most high profile.
Murphy Brown had one?
She did. Or it did. It did, I guess, is actually the more appropriate pronoun in this case because it's the show. But and I meant to watch it because I loved Murphy Brown, but I didn't watch it.
I remember that there was a show called Murphy Brown.
Yeah, it was, and it starred Murphy Brown.
Oh,
yeah. Well, the character.
Okay.
Yeah. And so my question is, which one is more important to you for them to get right? Like, which one do you have more invested in? For me, the answer is clear, but if they do a reboot, like the Star Trek reboot movie, or then they return to it, this is specifically more Picard because the Star Trek universe is something that has been returned to many, many times. But what other ones? In fact, Buffy is one, but in comics form, where they both returned to that universe and done a total reboot.
Is it more important to me for them to get a return to something correct or a reboot correct?
Yeah, or that you're satisfied. Or Star Wars, you could say. That only has one of them. But would you care as much if they did a reboot of the original trilogy and you didn't like it as much? Or if you were unhappy with the sequel trilogy? That kind of thing.
It's more important for them to get it right with returning to something.
Yeah.
Because a reboot is a reboot. A reboot is a completely different thing.
Right.
And it can be to its benefit. So I am a big fan of the Evil Dead trilogy, Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness, which I just recently discovered Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, was originally going to be called Medieval Dead.
Oh,
which to me is
that's awesome.
Such a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Medieval Dead? Come on.
Yeah.
How did they? I can't believe they squandered that opportunity. Anyway.
I bet they thought that people would there would be some segment of potential viewers who would see Medieval and be like, that's not the kind of thing for me. Like, not knowing what it actually was, that it was the kind of thing for them,
Instead of Army of Darkness?
Either
way, they probably saw the trailer, which takes place in medieval times.
They'd be like, "Oh, this is a medieval Army of Darkness story. We should go see this."
I thought it was more confusing that it wasn't in line with their Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2, and then the third one's just called Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness.
Like Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Die Harder, and then Johnny shoots folks. Especially since his name's not Johnny.
Yeah, that would have been even more confusing. I would have thought it was all
Johnny. It's John McClane. It is Johnny. He just doesn't like to be called Johnny.
Goes by John.
John or Jonathan McClane. Anyway, they did a reboot. Shut the fuck up. They did a reboot of The Evil Dead, and it was nothing like the Evil Dead trilogy.
Okay.
It was a very different beast. But you know what? That's not true. It's something like it. People go to a cabin, they read the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, and then dead things come to life. That's, you know.
So the broad
but
strokes.
it is its own beast, and it's very different. So it's a reboot. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of requels, I just watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Another great example, because there's been a reboot and a return.
And they did both in that movie.
Oh, really?
Because it's not really a reboot so much, but it is a continuation, right? It's supposed to be a sequel, but it is also just kind of a remake of the first one, because there's 75, I would say, of the 100 elements that are in this movie, 75% are references to the first one.
Oh, all right.
Even down to little stupid things like there was a whole conversation about Twinkies in the first one. And in this one, they open up a glove compartment and there's a Twinkie in there. It's stuff like that. It's, you know, when people get annoyed by fan service, I'm always like, well, what do they mean? Like, I like fan service. I'm a fan. I like to be serviced. What are they complaining about?
Yeah.
But I actually started to see it in this one where I'm like, all right, guys, it's the same villain. It's the same. It's the same. What would you call it? Set at the end with the stairs and the keymaster and the gatekeeper. There's a cute, adorable ghost that's not Slimer, but it's Slimer. You know what I mean? It's just Anyway. So I think it's more important to get a continuation correct than a reboot.
Yeah, because that's in that world. I feel exactly the same way, and I see people sometimes, admittedly, mostly before the age of the like real return popularity, talking about, like, oh, they did this and they're gonna screw it up. That's gonna suck, and that never fazed me at all. You know, it's like, yeah, if they do it and it sucks, then like it doesn't touch the original in any way.
Right.
You know, like it would be nice if it didn't suck, then you'd have more of something that you were really into.
Yeah.
But it doesn't in any way like disturb the original work. Whereas the returns are like, I really wanted it to go that way, and they took it a different way. You know,
there are people who are vehemently against the sequels from Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, because they don't like what it does to Luke Skywalker's character.
Yeah.
Which I found, I struggled with it as well originally during the film.
Right.
But by the end of the film, I was like, oh, that was perfect. That was awesome. I love what they did with his character. And it feels very in line with the Luke that I remember from the original trilogy. But there are people out there like, that's nothing like the original Luke. And I'm like, I don't think you were paying attention. But they're very upset because of how it affects the characters that they love later in the continuity. So
that was one thing about the sequels that I really didn't like, was like, of the, what I would say, 3 major victories at the end of the original trilogy, none of them stayed. Like none of them worked. There's like Han and Leia getting together, Luke restarting the Jedi, or maybe not the Jedi Order, but bringing that kind of thing back, and the Empire falls.
Yeah.
None of that lasted, Whereas at the end of Return of the Jedi, you're like, done and done.
Yeah.
Everything is great, and now it lives on in the wilds of my fantasy. But that actually kind of dovetails into the fan service thing. It's like Star Wars and Star Trek both have had a lot of books and comics and all kinds, but primarily novels, like novel series where they really continue it. And I never got into reading those too much, but I read about them sometimes. And sometimes I'll see something happen and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad that happened, in that is now like the leading edge of continuity for those things, or it was. And those seem to service fans very well. It's like, these are for people that like this. We're going to do things that they would like, and people like it. And I think that there is something of it. There seems to be kind of a current where it's like, if it's fan service, if it's something that you would want to happen,
then it's
that
fine.
is bad. Right.
Mhm.
Like, no, we can't do that because that's not true art because you want it to happen. You know? And I don't like that attitude in some modern entertainment where it's like, well, why not just do something that people think would be cool, Like plot matters. It's not just how well you tell the story, although that obviously is a big element of it. But sometimes I like something just because the plot turned out the way that I thought was cool,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Says episode 6 of Book of Boba Fett was so full of goodness, I felt like I was 8 years old again.
Yeah, I was thinking actually when you said we got 6 comics and that's it, I thought, hey, we could talk about the Book of Boba Fett at some point.
Well, at some point, yeah, we Noel and I discussed it. We thought we would just do a wrap up
of the whole deal. Right,
when the episodes
that makes sense. It is this coming week, even though this episode was very cool.
Let's review it one episode before the end.
It's true.
Yeah.
There was some cool stuff in this one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best 2 episodes of Boba Fett are Mandalorian episodes, but everyone has said that. That's not a new opinion. It's not a hot take.
No.
I guess maybe my hot take would be I also like the Boba Fett stuff. I wasn't enthralled by it. I wasn't like, I can't wait. But I'd be like, oh, Boba Fett's on. I'll watch that.
Yeah, me too. That was how I felt. I was like, that's definitely top of my list on a Wednesday if there's, if I'm not catching up on something else. But I'm not like raring to go for it.
Yeah.
But this week was not just the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yes, because that stuff was very cool too. And that is more what I wanted from Star Wars and the Star Wars
universe. I was very
fan
serviced.
Yeah.
Hal also said, what are your thoughts on the whole banning graphic novels like Maus from school? I don't know why this is. How is this a question?
I am that.
Hal, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
How is this a question? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you guys think about banning books?
Well, I don't think Hal 2814 was wondering if we were for or against.
I know. But the fact, it's shit like,
yeah.
What do you guys think about the world? I don't know. Do you think it's flat?
Yeah.
Maybe it's flat. And I know it's been, guys, I know it's been proven, right? Like a bunch. But what if it was flat though?
Yeah. Now, I will say, having read their reasoning, which I do not fully trust.
I'm sorry, on Mouse or
on Mouse.
Flat Earth.
We can get into the Flat Earth thing at another time.
Okay. On our Flat Earth podcast.
Yeah, where we discuss the merits of that theory. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know why it's called a theory. It's clearly flat.
Clearly. I mean, look at it. Other than the mountains. Yeah. When I first saw it, I guess we're talking about it right now, like 10, 15 years ago, I saw before I heard about it anywhere else, I happened to, I don't know how I came across it online, the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah.
In their frequently asked questions, number 1, is this a joke? It's like, no, this is not a joke. And at the time, it was just like a crazy curiosity, And now it's a more prevalent crazy curiosity. So, yeah. But on to Maus. Not that I trust the explanation that they have given, but the explanation that they gave was like, this, and this panel we deem inappropriate, right? We don't want to expose kids to like these 3 or 4 panels. We thought about censoring them, which I would also not be in favor of. I think people should be exposed to it because I'm a big fan of freedom and anti-censorship, but also because it's a really important work and it tells an important story for people who maybe aren't exposed to that story. I was exposed to that story my whole life because of my Jewish background. But if it's in a more understandable way that the comic is, then that's good, And also, there's the undercurrent of, is it just an excuse to get that out? Or you don't think it's that important because because you're not that invested with this group of people's continued livelihood, right? And maybe they have some high or low level feelings against that. I don't know, and I don't want to make that claim for those school board members. But yeah, in any way, it's bad. Hopefully, it's not the worst possible reason that it could be. But yeah,
When
I
it
think
comes to the Holocaust,
yeah,
that's another thing. That was another thing that I heard. That I was like, I'm sorry. There's people who think it didn't happen. They're just like,
oh,
what
yeah.
if it didn't happen though?
Yeah, that's
Never mind all
old.
of the facts.
Yeah.
And proof. But what if it didn't? Just the fact that there are people who just, I'm like, what do you mean they deny? Anyway,
they're called deniers. That's actually been even before this more modern era. That was something I remember going back to like Sunday school, them talking about like when I was a kid, like these people exist, these Holocaust deniers exist. But yeah, anyway, sorry, go on.
Oh, just that, yeah, if you're talking about something like the Holocaust with children, I'm not concerned with them seeing the word damn or mouse genitalia.
Right. I assume in a completely non-sexualized, like painful circumstance, right? Like I don't know the exact panel that they're talking about, but
I believe the mouse is shown in a tub.
Is that right?
And you can see the genitalia of the mouse.
Right. And it's, even if you're against that kind of thing, this is, well, I say this is a very important topic to cover. This is not the only way to cover that topic, right?
Right.
What they should be doing, if they're going to do this, which they shouldn't be doing, is making sure that they are covering this topic in as hard-hitting and impactful of a way, you know, which...
And also, if you don't want to discuss mouse in school, just don't have it as part of the curriculum, right?
Well, I think that's mostly what is being talked about. I guess they're also talking about pulling it from the library. I think that's what ban in a school means, though, right? Like, I don't know that means that if a kid had one, well, they probably would.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. But I think what they mean is like, we're taking it out of the classroom and it will no longer be in the library. Right.
I don't know. That's fine, I guess.
Yeah. Stephen King had an interesting perspective. He was like, I don't have any problem with that because when you ban something, kids run out and get it. You know?
Sales of mouse have skyrocketed.
Right.
And there's even shops out there who are they say, if you live in was it Tennessee?
Yeah.
If you live in Tennessee and you need a copy, we will mail you one for free.
Yeah, I saw that. There was a comics professional. I forget.
I was like, that's super cool. I couldn't afford to do that, but good on you.
Yeah.
I'm I'm barely above drowning, but that's awesome. I love that they're doing that.
What do you think, Hal? 284? Anything we missed?
Hal says, "LOL. I knew where y'all stand on it. I was just wondering what you guys thought when it came about. When it came out about banning. It's ridiculous. I don't think anything should be banned.
Yeah, that is a deep issue for me. Like censorship enrages me in a way that not anything else does. You know,
did you see they're actually having book burnings now?
Now, I mean, I think they've always done that.
This has led to book burnings.
Oh yeah. Oh, this specifically, people who are like, no, it should be banned. We're gonna burn them and something else. Yeah. I think things need to be free, right? Like information needs to be freely shared. You cannot stop anything because of, look at the long history of us censoring things that later we were like, oh, that was right, actually, right?
Yeah.
You need to leave everything open, even the stuff that you don't like. My stepdad has an interesting thing to say about that. He says there's no constitutional amendment against being offended, right? That's not part of it. And you don't need to protect things that nobody has a problem with. And I just think it's very important to humanity for the free exchange of ideas to remain free and unfettered. Just because that's how we progress and that's how we grow. And if you ban things, then we don't go down those avenues. And maybe one of those avenues is productive. And that gets into some tricky territory too with, like I'm not advocating hate speech, but, people need to be free to share whatever kind of thing they want.
Yeah. Mars says, what grade level was this that they were concerned about? 8th grade.
Was it
8th grade?
Yeah.
Coincidentally, I could even understand if it was like it's a preschool.
Right. Like, here's a book about mice and some cats. Right? Yeah. That would not be good. 8th grade, interestingly, coincidentally, the year after which most Jewish children would have been through the rite of passage to adulthood of bar mitzvah. So that's 7th grade for most people when you're 13. So it's like, I just find that interesting that you can be counted as an adult. In some ways, my dad pulled me aside. He said, Brian, this means you're on the path to becoming an adult. You still have to do what I say. Because he felt that would be a necessary addendum. Like, you are not a full adult yet. You don't get to just do whatever you want.
Yeah, banning 13-year-olds from seeing the word damn and like seeing a mouse penis.
Right.
Ridiculous.
Like they haven't seen mouse penises before.
Yeah.
Who reaches the age of 13 without seeing
without seeing a plethora of mouths peni?
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and if it's an impressionable age where they're worried about those kinds of things hurting them, then this is a good time to teach them about horrors that we should not forget, that we should not let be repeated, right? If that's an impressionable time, then this is a good impression. This is a good thing to impress upon them. The horrible things that happened at that time so that they can help make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. I agree. I concur. Also, I just noticed that there's background music that you can loop.
Ooh.
Hold on.
I like this. I knew it was about to break it down. Yes.
I didn't know you could do this. This is awesome. This is new.
This is pretty cool.
Let's see. There's dance pop. There's acoustic cinematic. Let's try that. Into space. Let's see.
Can we get that? Getting into space.
Shit.
JD, I'm going to space.
No, come back. I turned it off.
Hey! For the people listening, I just almost went into space. Couldn't see it, but it happened.
All right. We have an email. Let's get to this email real quick.
Let's do it.
All right. Boop bop skiddly dee. Oh, how do I? Oh no, I didn't have it. Oh shit! I got it. Where's my?
Well, that wasn't real quick.
Here we go. This is from Todd Engel. Question.
Yes.
Is the name of the email.
Oh.
Hey, I was just reading the collected West Coast Avengers written and drawn by John Byrne. The art is still gorge, but the writing is even worse than I remember. Ooh. Terrible characterization and sexist.
How bad did he remember it? Go on.
The writing is even worse than I remember. Terrible characterization and sexist, even by 1990 standards. What artists who became writers do you think were especially good or bad? Byrne must be the worst. Best, I guess, Frank Miller before he went crazy. So that is Todd Engel's email. Thank you so much.
Wait, sorry. The question was, what artists do you think are good?
What artists who became writers?
Oh, who became writers? Okay, right.
Yeah, are the best and the worst. He says John Byrne is the worst.
Oh.
I would say Todd McFarlane is pretty bad.
Oh. Oof.
Oof.
Yeah. I've only read one issue of Spawn, and it was for this podcast. I don't think we ended up actually talking about it.
Yeah.
It was unimaginable. It was like, I was like, how did this become published? This is crazy.
Um,
And some of that was editing. Some of it was just like wrong words or spellings or punctuation or but some of it was just like the phrases that he at one point he was like, and I will sit on that throne and that will make me the king of hell. I'm like, yeah, I know what sit on the throne means. It's not yeah. But
so hold on a second. Kevin is in the chat saying sorry for the outburst.
I think the outburst
there's no outburst in the comments. I missed an entire comments.
In Tennessee, not this stream, might have been the outburst. But I don't think anybody took offense. By anybody, I mean me, because I'm the only one that I really know who's
I feel like that's the end of
a
sentence.
I don't know. Yeah.
In Tennessee, not this stream. But I think there was more before that and it didn't come through. Anyway,
right.
Todd McFarlane. I was very excited about Todd McFarlane when he was taking over Spider-Man because he was doing Amazing Spider-Man with J.M. DeMatteis, I believe. And I was so excited he's going to be writing it and drawing it. And it's a good-looking book. But boy, howdy, are the words not great. Well, the words themselves were fine. The way he put them
each individual word
was, each individual word taken individually was fine. Yeah. So Todd McFarlane was awful, but I stick with my choice for Byrne. Did Liefeld ever write? I'm sure he did. I am sure he did.
Nobody's.
Uh-oh.
Here, am I back?
There you are. You're back. Nobody's
okay,
what?
Great.
Nobody's what?
Nobody's coming down on words, I said.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. It made more sense at the time.
Did Liefeld ever write? I don't know if Liefeld ever wrote, but I hope not.
Yeah. I liked Byrne's Superman, though, right? That's the one the Man of Steel, all that stuff.
Yeah, Man of Steel was dope. He wrote that too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will stand by his Man of Steel. That was fun. I will not stand by his Spider-Man Chapter 1. That was
nobody gets them all.
A stinky garbage fire.
Now, you and I were in the shop the other day, several months ago, and we were talking about like, this Superman or that Superman, and when he first encounters the Eradicator and he gets like kind of Kryptonianified, and he's flying, standing up with the red and black, and and we were like, that was awesome. We kept talking about like different things from that era that were very, very cool, and I think that was all Byrne. I think that was all still John Byrne, right?
In my recollection, yes.
Yeah, and they were awesome. I mean, that was a great era. Now I haven't gone back and reread it, and maybe I wouldn't feel as into it. Both, I might be a little more aware of the sexism, both because of the changing of the times and the changing of my age. But I mean, I loved it at the time, at least.
I'm trying to think of who the best would be. An artist who became a writer.
Chip Zdarsky was an artist, wasn't he?
Chip Zdarsky, yeah, he was. Yep.
Yeah.
He wrote and drew the Prison Funnies, and now he's just a writer, but he was an artist as well.
And he's one of the best writers around right now, in my opinion.
Oh, Terry Moore. Get out of here. It's Terry Moore. Terry Moore's the best. He's my favorite.
I don't think I've ever read anything by him.
Strangers in Paradise, Echo, Rachel Rising, 5 Years, Serial. Yeah, Terry Moore is dope as hell. He's great. And he's a lovely human being.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel a little bad. I feel a little bad about talking about Todd McFarlane that way. But the man is a great artist. I met him once personally outside of Wizard World Comic Con, and he was very nice. And I only read one issue of the guy's writing. He's had a 300+ issue run of this comic.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's still writing it.
Yeah.
I went back and got John's Fantastic Four because I had good memories, but reading it now, man, his run was so wordy.
That was when She-Hulk was in the group for a time, I think.
Mars says, heck yeah, Terry Moore shops in my local comic shop.
Sweet.
What the heck?
That's awesome. Is that around here? Mars Comics, are you in this area or are you elsewhere?
Well, Terry Moore doesn't live in Philly, so definitely not here.
Well, maybe he makes a long drive or a plane ride
every
week.
All right. Holy shit. It's been 34 minutes. Let's talk about some comics. Love Everlasting #1 from Tom King and Elsa Charretier. It's a romance comic about romance comics. And so this is a Substack thing. Oh, Bedrock, Houston, Texas, Bedrock City Comics is where is Mars's local comic shop.
Very cool.
That's where Terry Moore shops. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Substack, if anyone doesn't know, Substack is a new means by which creatives are emailing their subscribers comic books, right?
Yes.
It's basically, there's no middleman. You sign up with, let's say Tom King, and you sign up and you pay him money, and he will email you, what are those things called? The letters.
An email, I think is what they're called.
An email. He'll email you emails. And sometimes he'll email you comic books that are, I guess, digital only, a PDF of a comic book. And so the new one is called Sick with Love. No, Love Everlasting. And Tom King is the writer, and Elsa Charretier is the artist. And this is literally the way an old-fashioned comic book, romance comic book would be put together. In the same way that Tales from the Crypt was an anthology, a horror anthology. There were old romance comics, and there would be 2 or 3 or 4 different little stories, little romance stories within that one issue.
This is like pre-Comics Code. Is the Comics Code what really brought those down as well?
Yes, I believe so. And so I start reading it, and I'm like, yep, this is a romance comic. You read the entire first chapter, and you're like, that's a romance comic. Oh, there's more. Okay, this is cute. The first thing I noticed was Elsa's art is very much in line with, is it J Bone and Darwin Cook, which is wonderful. A little bit of Bruce Timm, a little bit of J Bone, a little bit of Darwin Cook.
Ooh, I can see the
lovely
Bruce Timm
style.
in there, yeah.
Very lovely. That's not it.
No.
Wait, is that literally just? Did it? Hold on. I think the file I brought up is literally just one page of it.
One bit. All right.
Whoops.
It's the art is very evocative of the romance comics that it is homaging, but has that that modern type feel too. That that Darwin Cook and Bruce Timm and presumably the other person you mentioned with whom I'm not familiar.
J Bone.
Yeah, I don't know him, but I bet I'd like him or her. Jay, one, I don't know. Yeah. It's one of those deals where it's like it's obviously modern in its production, but it is very much of the style that it's going for. Of that time, 50s maybe.
And it's a lovely looking book, but the first vignette is very much in line with a romance comic. And then as you go through the very next page, the very next one starts, and I go, wait a minute, that is drawn exactly like the woman we just saw. Wait a minute, Peterson, her name's Joan Peterson. That's the same character. What is going on? And then by the end of the issue, you discover that this poor woman is going through new romance comics, but retaining some of the memories of the previous romance comic. So it's this same woman sort of quantum leaping through these romance comics, remembering previous romance comics and sort of being driven insane by it. It is very, very cool. This is not what I expected at all when I saw that it was a romance comic. But this is very, very awesome. I was really tickled by this. I'm curious to see what is actually going on. And so at the very last page is another chapter in the vignette or in the anthology. And it's just page 1. And it ends with, fuck. Cuts off during the first page. And what a great way to end this book. What a very cool project this is. I thought this was a lot of fun. What'd you think, Brian? Welcome back.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully that will be the last of them. But
yes.
I thought it was great. I read the first one and I was like, all right, that is a full romance story. Didn't turn out exactly like I thought it was going to, but I'm not like super invested, but it was good. And then you get to the second one and there's a hint of something different happening where, she keeps kind of like remembering the man from the first one, but still mostly just a regular romance story. And then you get to the third one and is that one page, or no, are there 3 full? Yes. In the third one, the Old West one, and these are all like tropes of romance stories from what I'm aware. The secretary at the office, the girl who falls for the musician who her dad doesn't approve, and beatnik, especially at that time, and then the Old West one. And in the Old West one, she starts to like figure out something's up, and and maybe gets shot, or that could have been somebody in behind her. Who knows?
Yeah.
But and then the way that he ended the last page.
He froze again. Son of a biscuit. I'm just so suspenseful. I wonder what he was going to say. The last page was great. Was not good. It's a secret. Well, I guess he's just going to be frozen for a while. So I'm going to continue. So this was really, really fun.
Was great.
Oh, there he is. The last page was great. Oh, shit. Mars Comics is asking, JD, are you subscribed to the Tom King Substack? How much is it?
Hey.
There. Oh, and you're frozen again. Oh, no. Oh, poor buddy. So Mars, I am not subscribed to it, though I am tempted. I think Noel is the one who got it. So I think Noel subscribed to check it out. So, I've been really curious about these Substack things, but to be honest, I pay so much for Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video, whatever, all of these different not cable channels. And then I also pay for comic book reading apps. And it's just another thing, another subscription to have to pay for. I also pay a bunch of, what are they called? Patreon. I have a Patreon myself, but I also pay other Patreons for other artists and stuff. So, it's a matter of these Substacks. I'm going, I don't know if I can't afford it. I can't just keep plunking down money after money after money. And a lot of these Substack setups have said that they're eventually going to see print. So when they see print, I'm hoping to be able to order them from my store and sell them at my store. I'm hoping these things do see print so that they reach a wider audience. There he is, Brian.
On the last page.
Yes.
I hope they see print too. The way that they end the last page, without that, I'm being dramatic every night, Kevin.
Yeah. Kevin commented, maybe Brian is just being really dramatic tonight.
Yeah. Without that, I would have been like, I don't know. That being the case, I did want just a little bit more, just a little something about what's up. But this is also being told in a model that you're getting the next issue, I think, right? Like, unless you drop that subscription. So it's maybe a little closer to a serialized graphic novel than, and I only say serialized because of the way that this particular story is told. Like it's homaging serialized stories. The last panel did it for me. Also because it breaks the era that it's in, right? Saying fuck like that is a very modern phrasing.
Fuck.
And so I'm curious to see what happens next. But yeah.
Yeah, I agreed. I definitely want to read the next issue. Maybe Noel will share it with us because I think he's subscribed to Tom King's Substack. I've been curious to do. I want to say it's Donny Cates' Substack.
Oh yeah.
I'm very curious to see what he's doing. Maybe I'll just check out one of his things. But here's because I can't speak to it. I wish Noel was here to tell us about it. But most people who are using the Substack or are subscribing to a Substack, I imagine might be reading it on their phone. So it's surprising to me that this isn't set up like Webtoons, where it's a scrolling type of thing. Because this is a digital product. They are selling a digital product for people to read digitally. And it's surprising to me that it is laid out like a 8.5 by 11-ish comic book page and not a scroller. You know what I mean?
Well, it may be that at least Tom King hopes to publish it in print one day, or as a traditional digital comic, as far as tradition extends for digital comics. But I don't know. I wonder how many people are reading it on their phone versus a tablet or even computer.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Who knows?
I guess if you're subscribing to a Substack for comic books, you probably have a digital reader.
It's a decent chance.
Yeah. Sabretooth #1 from Marvel Comics, written by Victor Laval with art by Leonard Kirk. Down in a hole. Sabretooth went into the pit, sentenced to an eternity of torment. Sure, that sounds like hell, but maybe that's where he feels most at home. Oh. What's he been doing down there? What secret deal has changed his fate forever? And what if he's not alone?
Oh.
I had no interest in this. I had not a single shred of interest to read a Sabretooth single, what is it called? Like a solo series.
Yeah.
And then this was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed this. I was surprised because I had forgotten. Like I remember way back in the beginning of Hoxpox, House of X, Powers of 10 by Hickman, the new status quo for the X-Men. For anyone who's unaware, Sabretooth went on a mission and was just doing Murder Town all over the place. He was just making with the murder. And so when he came back on the humans,
right?
And when they came back, the Quiet Council was like, "Yo, bro, it's a tad too much murder."
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is bury you alive inside Krakoa.
Yeah.
Bye. And I'm not entirely sure if we've seen him since then.
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't been reading, but that's my impression just from this book is that we have not.
Yeah. Mars Comics says they liked Sabretooth. Nice. This was delightful. This was actually quite a bit of fun. And I thought for a second, Sabretooth is one of those characters that doesn't feel well-rounded to me. He feels like Wolverine, but meaner.
Yeah.
And he never seems to be more than that. He's always been a bastard. He continues to be a bastard. He always will be a bastard.
Well, he's opposite
but there's a segment
Wolverine.
What's that?
He's opposite Wolverine, right? He's in the tradition of like Bizarro, Reverse Flash, Moriarty is the first one that I know of. And so when he's a bad guy, like you don't always need more than that. Just like he's got all the powers of the hero, but he's bad,
Right. He's just a real jerk.
Yeah.
Real jerk store.
Yeah.
So then he's been down there, and the cool thing is that Krakoa is tapped into his mind and is keeping him a mental prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And so he makes a deal, and his mind is set free, and he just, however he can, mentally wreaking havoc and getting revenge on anyone he's ever wanted revenge on. Mm-hmm. And he spends all this time going through all this. And then he sits down and he has a think. He ponders some shit, and he's like, well, I've done everything I've ever wanted to do. Now what? Now what am I going to become? And I thought, here is a chance for some character development. This evil guy has gotten all the evil out of his system, and we're going to get a new Sabretooth. Not the case.
No.
He continues, just becomes worse. He's like, well, I'm going to have my own hell, and I'll be in charge of my own hell. And I'm like, come on. Which is kind of fun, because I imagine that was on purpose. I believe I was led down that path purposefully. To think that there was going to be some sort of, turn.
Well, because he's the Starjammers. He's like the leader of the Starjammers, who are at least quasi good guys usually. Yeah.
But then it was like, no, I'm still going to be bad.
I'm Sabretooth.
So kind of funny. Yeah. What did you think?
Oh
no. He's frozen again. Oh, Brian.
Well, I liked it too. Am I back?
You're back. I guess not.
Hey, I'm here twice. No,
there he is.
So, Sabretooth, lest I disconnect again, I noticed something that I had never noticed before about the spelling of Sabretooth. I typed it out in our notes. It is spelled like the sword, not the saber-tooth cat. It's S-A-B-R-E, tooth.
Yeah.
I guess I had never really thought, like, I tried to figure out how saber-tooth cat was spelled, and it's the other way. It's S-A-B-E-R, which is wild to me. Like that Sabretooth has been hiding this other spelling in plain sight right in front of my eyes all these years.
Oh, my Lord.
Again?
No, just...
Oh, good.
The revelation is staggering.
It just happened like an hour or 2 hours ago, and I guess I never really paid much attention to how either one was spelled, but it just never occurred to me. Anyway, the book itself was good. We had been kind of primed. Noel said he didn't expect much from it, and it was very good, and I agreed. I thought it was cool that the Krakoa and Doug Ramsey, or no, is that Doug Ramsey? Cypher? They make him that offer of like, hey, you've been put through these kind of worlds and you don't remember every time that you kind of live out like a brief period. How would you like to be free here? Because we don't think what the Quiet Council has done to you is good, And I thought that was a very cool turn to have them, because I felt the same when we read it in whatever early House of X Powers of 10 book it was. It was like, it seems very harsh. That had, like a really harsh punishment that he is just kept immobile for eternity because they can all come back and they don't know what to do with him, and he'll get loose and start killing people again. So yeah, that was cool. I thought it was a little odd that he does everything he ever wanted to do, and he's like, well, I did everything I ever wanted to do. I'm like, well, but you didn't. You're just kind of living out this fantasy that is a fantasy. Like, does this not seem hollow to you at all, Mr. Tooth?
Mr. Tooth?
But apparently it doesn't. He's into it. And yeah, I had the same thing. I was like, oh, it seems like something's happening. And it's like, oh, nothing's happening. He's ruling hell. Although he's moved a little bit in the real world, which is a different kind of something happening. And so now other people, I think, are down there in hell with him, or in his world with him, which is formed into a hell. So
and Noel and I were talking about this, and I was like, I don't know who these people are. And Noel said, oh, neither do I. Because I was under the impression, I've fallen off the X books. I'm not reading them. So I thought maybe that something happened in one of the other main titles.
Right.
With these characters, they were introduced, and now they did something terrible, and now they've been banned. But he says he hasn't seen them either, so they might be all new.
Madison Jeffries, I believe, is somebody from before. That name sounds really familiar, from like a long time ago in X-Men. All of the other ones, Oya seems
Where are you seeing names?
Down at the bottom of that page on the left.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got like an or there's something blocking it. I can't see him.
Oh, well, it says...
I see.
There you go. Yeah. Oya seems kind of familiar. And Madison Jeffries definitely is somebody from at some point in the past. I was going to look it up real quick, but I've disabled all other internets than my computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is much better than I anticipated. Very cool.
Yeah.
Will I read Sabretooth number 2?
No.
Probably not.
You will not, and I don't think I will either. But
Cool.
Yeah. But I like this one.
Yeah, agreed. Crossover number 11 from Image Comics, written by Donny Cates with art by Jeff Shaw. For the longest time, as a boy, I always thought it was Geoff, like Geoff.
Yeah.
Ellie, Ryan, and the rest of the crew close in on the shadowy figure taking out comics' finest. Murder, mayhem, spilled ink, ungodly revelations, puppies. The latest chapter has it all as we explore the insane world beyond the dome. So we had talked about crossover before on this here show.
We had.
And when it first came, I was so excited about it. I thought it was going to be so cool. And it proved to be victim of my own expectations.
You thought we were going to get actual characters that you had heard of since the 90s? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, one of the first things is like, oh, there's a character with an S on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not who I thought it was going to be.
To be fair, that was a pretty neat switcheroo.
It was a neat switcheroo, but it was also a disappointing switcheroo.
Yeah. And who is it? Donny Cates had also said beforehand, like, you won't believe who we got, right?
Yeah.
But he was wrong.
I'm prepared to not believe it.
Yeah. But you believed it, I bet.
I did believe it.
I believed it as well.
So yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment. However, ever since that, I've tempered my expectations, and now I think it's delightful. I think it's a really fun book because I have been reading comics for so long. I think this is a very specific comic for a very specific audience, and people of my age are it.
And you're of your age.
What?
And you're of your age.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
For me, because I've read Powers, I've read Madman, I've read a lot of the paybacks. I've read a lot of the comic books that are being referenced in this comic book. So for anyone who doesn't know, Crossover from Image is a comic book series about what would happen if an entire city was decimated in an instant and replaced by a comic book city filled to the brim with comic book characters. An entire city is laid to waste to make room for this fictional comic book city. And a dome is erected to keep regular humans and the comic book characters separated. And we find out more about that. The government is involved with trying to figure things out. Comic book relations to comic books in general and comic book stores are very different because of it, which I think is kind of cool. And there's revelations. This is one of those things that I think not enough people are reading, and I may be wrong there, but I am a little hesitant to spoil major plot points because I think people should read it and catch up. But there are very fun things like real life comic book creators are in the book and they're being murdered.
Chip Zdarsky.
Chip Zdarsky gets murdered. And we meet other real life comic book creators. It's really a lot of fun. I'm having trouble describing because there's so much going on with it. But basically, we meet a bunch of different characters in this world who are in that world are from comic books. Like the Powers, Dina Pilgrim and Christian Walker from Powers are in this, written in a very Bendis-y way. And there's even a scene where the person being interrogated by them is going, I'm not doing this. And they're like, doing what? And they're like, I'm not doing this Bendis thing. I'm not going to do the Bendis thing. And then there's like a whole page of Bendis things. And she's like, fine, we'll do it. We're going to do it. We're going full Bendis. And they have a whole dialogue page where it's just dialogue back and forth. So it's like really on the nose references like that. Speaking of fan service.
Yeah.
Very fan servicey. Go ahead.
Other than Chip Zdarsky, which we read for the podcast, who the character that he met is like him. Do these characters have they ever met their creators at any time?
Well, there is a scene where Christian Walker and Dina Pilgrim are interviewing Brian Michael Bendis.
That's cool. I like that. Get a taste of his own medicine there.
Yeah.
One dose.
But there's the question, right? So we can agree that these Powers characters are created by Bendis and exist because of Bendis, and everything they have ever done up until this point is written by Bendis. But then they start to go, but you're there.
Right.
We're interviewing you.
Yeah.
You're just as confused as we are. So who's writing what we're saying now?
Right. Like they are no longer being controlled by, like, their existence.
I don't know what you're about to say because you froze, but it sounds like you're about to say their existence isn't being controlled by a writer. I think they are being controlled by a different writer. I think there is a different writer out there writing all of this, which is a very fun sort of meta take. And at the end here, we have Negan showing up from Walking Dead. Very, very cool. I really like this series. It started off, my enjoyment of it was my own fault, just because of what I was expecting. The hype around it led me to believe it was going to be something different than it is. But now that I'm aware of what it is more than I thought it was going to be. And it's very, very cool. So yeah, hopefully you guys are out there checking it out. If you aren't, I highly recommend that you do. Part of me thinks that you have to be aware of a lot of the comic book characters before this point. I feel like this is for people who've been reading comics for 20, 30 years, but maybe it's not. Maybe you could just dive in without knowing. And all you need to know is that there are fictional comic book characters, but also the creators that created them in the comic book as well. And maybe it reads just as well. I'm not sure. He's back.
Well, JD, that's not what I was going to say, but that is also an interesting idea that maybe somebody else is writing them now, writing all of them. Because obviously this is not the real Brian Michael Bendis as we know, the real Brian Michael Bendis. But what I was going to say is that, like, their existence was created by Bendis, and now they are something else, having come into this other world. Although I typically am of the persuasion intellectually that it is most likely everything that can exist does exist. Like, I think that that's a likely scenario. So these stories about, like, well, this writer is creating this, we are fiction in some other reality, right? Or in some other part of this reality, because that is also a thing that can exist. And anybody who doesn't like breaking the fourth wall, I bring this up like fairly regularly. So they must be upset. But yeah, so it's interesting when they come in and they're like, well, Brian Michael Bendis wrote you, in terms of if that is happening in the real world. That's not the case, right? Like, they are just exactly the same as something Brian Michael Bendis wrote, because that too is an expression of one of the many possibilities of reality, right? They just, up until that point, exactly mimicked everything that he wrote in this comic.
Sure, but I think for this book specifically, I think there's a writer writing it.
Oh yeah, it's very possible. I hadn't thought of that because I'm not reading this book, but that maybe I wouldn't have thought of it anyway. But it's a very interesting idea.
Is it too dark for you? Is that why?
No, no. I thought it was cool. The ones that we read, I just didn't keep up with it. Here's the other thing that is not grabbing me as much. I didn't read any of those comics, right?
That's like, what my question was. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the 90s,
when you were frozen. I was asking, I wonder if this would work at all for people who have no experience with any of these characters.
And I might not be the greatest case to test that on, because even though I don't know these characters, I know comics, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know that these are comics characters, and I think it's cool that they're in there. And I know the guy who looks a lot like Doctor Strange, he probably acts a lot like Doctor Strange too, who was in one of the first few issues. But that aside, no, it's not really, it doesn't really grab me as much. To me, it's just like, oh yeah, I know that these are characters from other stories, and that part of the story is still cool and interesting, but there's no like, the Savage Dragon is showing up, So I think he does. And
he does, yeah.
Yeah.
The zombies from Walking Dead and
Right, yeah. I've never read either of those comics except one Savage Dragon that we read for the show. Back in the 90s, when a lot of this stuff is drawn from, I didn't read any Image stuff. I didn't read any non-Marvel or DC stuff. Well, that's not entirely true, but I didn't read any of these things. And I didn't get into that kind of stuff until a little later, until adulthood. But so it doesn't really, intellectually, the exercise of it is cool, but I'm not getting any of the like, this guy is back, that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's my worry, is that this really is dependent upon you being me.
Well, I think it's and I'm not, but so very few people are. But
you know what though? In the multitude, there is a you that is me.
I've often wondered that, right? Like, as infinity stretches out, can something be so different that it is a completely different thing, right? Like, if you have an infinite amount of apples, will you eventually get a cucumber?
Yes.
And is that part of the infinitude of apples anymore, or is it something else, right?
Or the infinitude of cucumbers.
Exactly. And that is something that I have wondered. And it might just be our faulty understanding of the permutations of things, right? No other permutation that is similar to me is me, right? They're just very, very similar to me. And then they get more and more different as time goes on. But
the thing that tickles me is, and this is a different conversation.
Sure.
But the idea
about things
that
tickle you.
You this the idea that every so many years, 8 years or something, you are completely different cells.
I just saw what may be a debunking of that. I just read the headline, and it was like, well, your cells regenerate at different rates and whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's not like, it's not, they don't not all begin and end at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a whole like axe handle, axe head, ship of Theseus thing. Like from WandaVision and Greek philosophy.
But more importantly, WandaVision.
Yeah. I mean, that's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I didn't see Heraclitus with his own weekly Disney Plus show, right?
What a dickhead.
Yeah. Can't get on the same streaming service twice. He said you can't step in the same river twice, which is one of my favorite quotes from philosophy.
Wow.
Yeah. You can't step in the same river twice because it has to move. It's not just that it does move. It has to be a river, right? You can step in the same area, but the water is different.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to me. There's a lot to think about there. Yeah. Heraclitus, very few things that we have of his, and that's one of the only like phrases of his that remains to this day. But I don't know if the brain.
Damn it, Brian! I thought you were just pausing for dramatic effect, and you're frozen again. Mars says, "I love that quote." Well, Brian, since the internet has shut you up, I'm going to move us on to excellent number 1 from Marvel Comics, written by Peter Milligan with art by Mike Allred. And this is, bless me, X-Cellent. Get it? It's finally here. They were loved by their adoring fans. They were reviled by the harsh press. They lived, they loved, they fought, and they died. A lot, all for the sake of fame. They were the Ecstatics, a team of mutant celebrities fighting for a brighter world and an even brighter spotlight. But they're old news now, because there's a new mutant team that will live harder, love harder, fight harder, and die a whole lot harder than those has-beens. So for anyone who hasn't, or I guess, how do I say it? There was a series by Peter Milligan and Mike Allred, I want to say 10 years ago, if not slightly longer than that. And it was called Ecstatics. It was X-Force, and then just 1 month, X-Force completely changed look, feel, plot, everything. Everything was completely different just from one issue of X-Force to the next. And it eventually became Ecstatics, became a whole new book. And it was a really dark look at celebrity. And it was a team of mutants of X-Men that were hardly even related to the X-Men at all. That's where Dupe made his first appearance. Fan favorite Dupe, who I love. To this day does not speak English. There is a key out there, a translation key, so that you can figure out what it is he's saying in his word bubbles. But you have to translate them. And I thought it was just such a fun, original, interesting take on the mutants that I hadn't really seen. It really felt like a breath of fresh air. I fell off eventually. I didn't read it to the end. I believe there's an omnibus out there that you could read the whole run of. But it started off very strong. And now here it is again, called The Excellent. So in the first issue of Ecstatics, one of the big deals was that you are introduced to the team of the X-Force. And the entire issue, it goes along as normal. You find out about them. And then there's a fight. And at the last page of the issue, the leader, who I believe was the main character up until that point, gets murdered. And you can see his intestines. Like, dude does not live. You can see it here. I pulled it up. There he is, missing his bottom half. He's been torn in two, and his guts are all leaking out of him.
That's in the first issue?
First issue of Ecstatics.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting.
And I went, holy cats, what? Are you kidding me? I'd never seen that before in an X-Men book. The lead character was murdered. And then it goes on from there. And I don't remember, because I haven't finished Ecstatics all the way through, I'm under the impression we have never seen that guy Zeitgeist again. So this issue is kind of neat because it picks up, and it seems to pick up in the middle of a story, which is also kind of fun. There was a character called You Go Girl, and now her daughter is on this new team. This is like the next iteration of the team, a reboot, if you will, of the team. And she's trying to figure out her name, and she finally figures out her name's going to be Gone Girl.
It's a good name for a teleporter.
Yeah, right? Gone Girl?
Yeah.
So, also You Go Girl. Like, the letter U dash go.
Yeah.
Girl.
They were like, this one isn't as culturally relevant anymore. She's the one that's out. Let's come up with a new one. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I believe she's exactly the same character. It's not even like she looks much different. I think that is the exact same design as the previous You Go Girl.
That's
but
cool.
This is supposed to be her daughter.
That's cool.
And so a new team has shown up called The Excellent, which is led by Zeitgeist, the guy who has been rebuilt and has created a new team. And so it's the Ecstatics versus the Excellent. And the Excellent have been sort of like terrorizing other celebrities just in ways that are just sort of inconvenient. It doesn't seem like it's really all that terrible, but it's like they really inconvenience them. And it's all about clicks and views and social media and followers and all that sort of stuff. So this one doesn't really feel like it's saying anything particularly new or innovative. It really is just continuing the threads from the previous series as far as I can tell. That being said, this was still a delight. I'm curious to see what you have to say about it, Brian, because these characters are all kind of dickheads. What did you think?
They are. I was very much looking forward to this. I wanted to make sure that this was one that we talked about. I never read Ecstatics, but I always wanted to. I just never picked it up, or, I think it came out at a time when, I really had to choose which comics I was going to spend money on that week. And, I love Mike and Laura Allred's work. Like, some of my favorite art. It's not by any means like standard comics art, and I think it's, I don't know, maybe my favorite of the like non-standard comics art, but that is so intrinsically comicsy. You know what I mean? It's in a very different way homages an earlier time, a Silver Age kind of time. I always felt. So I am ready to read anything that Mike and Laura Ulrich do. And I have a respect for Peter Milligan, even though I can't think of anything that he's written that I've read, but I feel like I like him. I feel like I have read things and I like what he does. I wasn't that grabbed by this issue. The art was amazing, and I liked looking at every single page. But yeah, I felt a little like what's going on? Like what is happening in this book right now? And I didn't have a lot to grab onto about what the general idea was.
It just
in
okay.
The story.
This seems to be the idea. What if there were superheroes who were petty?
Who were petty?
Just petty.
What if?
What if they were petty?
Yeah.
Like it all seems like there's no stakes to it. I mean, obviously, my man here gets his innards blown out.
Right, that's some stakes.
Yeah, that's some stakes.
Yeah.
But as far as like what they're fighting for is not engaged. It's not, that doesn't interest me. They're fighting for more followers.
Yeah.
And for, there could have been something interesting to say about, well, I guess it is kind of interesting. The interesting thing that they're saying is that, we meet the Ecstatics and they are refilming elements of their fight with the Excellence.
Yes.
And making things look a little bit better for themselves. And Excellence has done the same thing quicker, and they're so pissed off that Excellence has put out this really negative looking redo of their fight that like makes them look evil. But they're doing the same sort of thing. I think it seems like they weren't trying to make Excellence look evil. They were just trying to get better shots or something, or better poses or something.
Right.
Whereas Excellence was straight up making them look evil. But I guess that was kind of the only thing. It was like, you guys are complaining that they've done this while you're in the middle of trying to do something similar. But that was really the only sort of interesting statement to be made, of the hypocrisy of it all.
And I think I missed that part where the Excellence had made them look bad specifically, not just one-upped them, but made them look evil. You know what I mean?
Well, here I'll bring it up. It's up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
And here is the fake iteration of Ecstatics put out by Excellence. And you've got there's a cat in the middle there just flying. There's a baby being knocked out of its crib.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they're doing some stuff that
everyone is specifically uglier.
Yeah.
Look at the face that Mr. Sensitive is that his name, Mr. Sensitive or something?
The most sensitive man alive or something like that.
Yeah. But if you look at him, he's specifically made to look evil and ugly.
That's true.
Yeah. But the fact that they're there's puppies in danger and cats in danger and a baby in danger. So yeah.
True. What's weird too is that I don't know what the guy's name is, but the guy with the streaks in his hair and the cybernetic hand does not have that in the one where they have made him look evil.
Yeah, because they've hired an actor.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
There wasn't in the budget to give him a CGI bionic arm.
I guess not. I think it might have been helpful for me coming in with very little understanding of what these characters were all about, other than they're in some way media related, to have seen that fight in reality first, and then see that each one is slanting it. But that would be a different take. Maybe he just wanted to show only the slants, at first.
The what is it? Ran of it all?
Ran? Like the
Ran.
the planet that Adam Strange goes to? in Strange
No,
Adventures?
no.
Oh.
Or maybe it's pronounced Ron. The Akira Kurosawa film where it's
Oh,
a bunch
Rashomon.
of Rashomon. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I was thinking of there's another Akira Kurosawa film. I confused the name of it.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Rashomon of it all.
I really thought that you meant Ran because of Strange Adventures that came out recently, where it is kind of like... No, I didn't finish it. I just know that there's like... He says one thing, but the truth is some other thing.
Yes.
You know?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I would be interested to hear what happened.
Todd Engel is in the chat. He says, but it wasn't excellent. And I loved X-Force/Ecstatics. It tried hard, but didn't succeed. So, yeah.
There you go. It did try hard, right? There was a lot of oomph put into this. So it started out as X-Force, and just X-Force wasn't a title at the time, and he was like, hey, I'll do something with X-Force.
X-Force was a title at the time.
Oh, really?
And then an X-Force story ended.
Yeah.
And the very next month was a complete reboot.
Oh, wow. All right.
I don't even think it was a new number one.
Right.
I want to say it was just the next, let's say 14, and then all of a sudden 15 was this version of X-Force.
Oh, that would be, and it was always Mike Allred doing the pencils.
Yeah.
And
yep.
Yeah.
Neat, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, he's so good.
All right. Hey, look, it's time for the promo block.
Oh.
In addition to liking and subscribing on YouTube, please like and follow us on Facebook. We stream there as well. You can find us CultPop Podcast. If you want to help us out with some money, you can go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo and help us out that way. We do have more people than I thought would help us out is helping us out. And I really, really appreciate it. It's really lovely. But if you're not one of those people, if you can't afford to be one of those people, that is fine too. We love you just as much, maybe slightly less. You can just share the show with your friends and hang out with us here live every Monday night at 9 p.m. You can also leave us nice reviews on iTunes because it's also on iTunes. We edit it and put it up there. So hi, Andrew. Andrew's our editor. But yeah, and if you want comics, if you want a subscription, hit me up at JDsHeroComplex at 4327 Main Street. We do mail outs, special orders, anything you need. We will do it. And that's it. So yeah, we did it. We did the end. The promo block is over.
Done. No more promotions.
Monkey Prince #1 from DC Comics by Jean Luen Yang and art by Bernard Chang. Introducing the newest hero in the DCU, the great sage, equal to the heavens, better than his predecessor, the legendary Monkey King, even better than the Justice League, and definitely the Teen Titans. Actually, all the heroes combined. Everyone put your hands together for the Monkey Prince. Marcus' son moves around a lot because his adoptive parents are freelance hench people. So this month he finds himself as the new kid in Gotham City High School, where a mysterious man with pig features asks Marcus to walk through a water curtain to reveal himself as who Marcus really is. Someone who has adventured through the journey to the West, can transform into 72 different formations, can clone himself using his hairs, and is called the Monkey Prince. Brian, you take it away. You tell us what you thought about this book.
I thought it was interesting. I expected exactly this in many ways from this book, right? Like, he's a mythological kind of character. Looks a little off the wall, and it reminds me of a lot of the sort of introed characters again in the 90s in DC, where they're like, let's take this very specific thing and create a character about this that will showcase, this either this mythology or whatever it is, right? And it, like many brand new characters that have never been introduced in any other place, right? Like a lot of characters that get their own book, premiered in Detective Comics or whatever, right? And so it's a different kind of thing in an ongoing universe when you have a new #1 with somebody that's never been around before. And I thought they did a pretty good job of bringing him in to the DC universe. I think his relationship with Batman is very interesting. That he is terrified of Batman, Like Batman is the source of his living in fear all the time, because Batman broke in to his house and beat up his parents. And then when he saw that there was a kid around, he left, and Batman was going after some hench people, right? But we didn't know that. He doesn't know that. And I thought finding that out in the book was very cool too, where, they travel around, they go to a lot of cities where there are superheroes. Bloodhaven, Opal City, and Keystone are the ones that they mention. And then they're back in Gotham, and they're very nice people the mom is, at least so far, to him. But they're also hench people for the Penguin right now, right? And I find that to be a fun kind of ongoing universe kind of idea, that these hench people are like freelance, that they, Joker gets thrown in jail, and then so maybe they kind of drift over to the Riddler or whatever, and that's like their job, done very well in Venture Brothers. It's a fun kind of like just exploration of that sort of thing. So, yeah, by the end of it, of course, he meets Batman again, and comes into conflict with him. I'm interested to see where that goes. I don't know that I will pick up the second issue, but I like books that are based in mythology. I've heard of the Monkey King, and it's interesting. He certainly has a not unique but distinctive personality that is well written into the book. What'd you think?
Well, I love the first half of it. All the things that you were talking about the hench folk and the trauma caused by Batman. Very, very cool. Very cool origin story for a character, for a hero. There's the trouble of Batman being confused that the that the husband and wife team, who are hench folk, have a child in the house.
Yeah, he probably would have found that out beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like the boy has a room. The boy has his own room. It's not like he's hiding in a closet. He lives he lives like Harry Potter under the stairs.
And Batman went there.
He has a room.
Like, he knows the address. He went there on purpose. He didn't chase anybody there.
Yeah, Batman does recon. He breaks in. Yeah, he knows that there's a kid there. So the fact that he's like, there's a child in the house.
Yeah.
Bro, you're Batman. What are you talking about? Of course, how would you not know? But that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I like the anxiety and the different ways that different things bring back that very traumatic night to this boy. I think that's all very interesting and very cool. The thing with the Penguin is a nice little scene with the I don't even know what is that? There's some sort of genie in a bottle type dragons.
I think they say what it is. I forget. Oh, it's a golden demon.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
The art is a lot of fun. I think the art is spot on for this book.
Yeah.
It's a really good looking book. The problem is I don't care about the Monkey Prince as a character, like what he becomes and his little pig buddy. Yeah. That's where they lose me, which is the main point of the whole crux of the book is this.
It's all building to that.
Yeah. That's all a precursor to like the Monkey Prince. So this I'm not so into. I don't really care. Noel and I were talking about it before the show, and we agreed this may have been better as a graphic novel, as an all ages graphic novel. A 12-issue monthly issue, not for me. I'm not gonna keep up with this at all. But if it was like one volume, I might have blown right through it and had a different opinion. But this first issue is not enough. And I don't find the kid to be engaging enough or interesting enough. I find him a little annoying. He's got a lot of energy.
He does.
And he reads that way.
Especially once he becomes the Monkey Prince.
Yes. Even worse when he becomes the Monkey Prince.
Yeah. It does. It takes on a very all ages or YA tone when he becomes the Monkey Prince.
Yeah.
There's also stuff that, like, being surrounded by burps or whatever that have what seems to be, from my understanding, like a Asian story trope kind of feel. From what I understand, you know, like the kinds of things that you would see in anime and that kind of thing, which is not something that I traditionally gravitate to. Although I do like that mythology. So
he travels around on burp clouds.
Yeah, or at least that those clouds surrounded him as burps. Like, I don't know if when he travels around on them, they are also burps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might be that stuff came out of the pig guy as a burp, and that stuff is like some other kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, the art's really good. I probably won't read the second issue, but I did enjoy it. Yeah, I liked it.
I feel like if this is your bag, it's very well done.
Yeah. And I think it does slant a little younger than you and I. Like, it's aimed to. I mean, it's a kid in high school is the is the thing. So it seems like an attempt at, and hopefully for them a successful attempt at a new teen hero. You know.
I'll point kids towards it when they come in the shop.
Yeah. Will you say anything, or you just kind of
point
at them and then at the book? Yeah.
Fantastic Four: Reckoning War Alpha #1, Marvel Comics, Dan Slott and Valerio Schiti. 15 years in the making, and it all kicks off here. Wait, didn't it kick off 15 years ago? Yeah. In a time before the Kree, Skrull, and Shi'ar empires, before the emergence of Galactus, before the birth of Asgard, there was the First War, the greatest war to ever rage across the multiverse. Today, it is reignited. This is the day of reckoning, and all that stands between all of reality and revenge from the dawn of time are the heroes of Earth, the Fantastic Four, and the mind of Mr. Fantastic. Starring the FF, She-Hulk, Jack of Hearts, the Unseen, the Silver Surfer, and everyone in the whole damn Marvel universe.
Sweet.
I have not been keeping up with Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run, but what I read of it, I do enjoy. And I enjoyed this. This was also a lot of fun. There was one particular page in here that I was actually delighted to see. And it just felt like an old school comic book team up page. We, go through the whole thing, and then we are treated to this page where you just have, Spider-Man, Ben Reilly is saving an old woman, and then blowing by him are a bunch of the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Captain Marvel, Sunfire, Iron Man. Very cool page. It's a very old school, delightful page.
Yeah, you're right. This is like Infinity Gauntlet era. Like, look, everybody's here kind of stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
Other
than that, I don't really care about the Badoon. I'm not entirely sure I know who the Badoon are. I just, don't really care about them. I do like that Nick Fury is no longer the Unseen. He's just Nick Fury again, and he's become the Herald of Uatu, the Watcher.
Yeah.
So that is a much more interesting dynamic, although it seems like Uatu might not be around again. I have a feeling we'll see him.
Yeah.
But basically, this is a story where we get the origins of the Watchers and the reasons that they have become the Watchers and what they were before they were the Watchers and swore not to interfere with mortal events. And that was all pretty interesting, actually. It was all very cool. Very classic Marvel cosmic comic booking meets Marvel Earth.
Yeah.
I need a little bit of Earth on my Marvel cosmic to be interested. So this was actually a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to keep up with this. What did you think? You're frozen. Holy cats. All right. It was nice to see She-Hulk back. There he is. Oh, nope, he's gone. And the interesting thing here is She-Hulk #1, Jack of Hearts shows up at the end, and he collapses at her door, and now he seems just fine and hanging out with She-Hulk. So I wonder if this was supposed to come out a couple of issues into the She-Hulk run and not now. Go ahead, Brian. Are you returned?
Well, I've returned. I thought I had fixed the problem, but here we are. But apparently, I was so into this that I was like, what are the other parts of this story? Where is it going? Because I thought this was just the Fantastic Four Reckoning War #1. I thought, oh, that's odd that it starts with a Fantastic Four thing. It's not its own event. But I thought that it was. In the course of finding that out, I saw that She-Hulk #3 is
so it is
also to that. Yeah. So I think we just read #1 like a couple of weeks ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like a week ago, I think. Yeah.
Something, yeah. Is Dan Slott writing that also? What kind of Girl Scout cookies have you got there?
Well, I'll tell you.
Tell me.
I've got peanut butter patties.
Ooh.
And I've got shortbread and Noel's favorite, the toastier, which is a French toast flavored cookie.
That does sound really good. Is that new from the Girl Scouts?
Brand new. Yeah, I think it's new this year.
I like the sound of that. Although Thin Mints, I haven't had Toast Jays, but Thin Mints to me are the quintessential.
I used to love Thin Mints, but I no longer enjoy them. I don't know if the flavor changed somehow or what, but
you know what I discovered a little while ago? They're just chocolate or chocolate graham crackers with mint. Oh, I love them. That looks good. That looks good too. I do like those. If they're the kind that they look like they are. So anyway, I loved this comic. I thought this was great. I think this was my favorite thing that I read this week. It was just straight up Marvel crossover, just like I like to see it done. You know, Cosmic especially is very cool for me. A lot of the gathered heroes in this first episode are, I mean, you got the Fantastic Four, and then a cool selection of other X-Men and Avengers and what have. Spider-Man is there. It's great, you know. Silver Surfer is there. Doom is off on some reality-saving mission, because Doom will do that kind of thing sometimes, right? Like he's always out for his own ends, but existing in the universe is pretty high up on his list. And I always like it when Doom is like, I got to work with the good guys this time, or at least to their same goals. You know, it's always interesting. Yeah, I thought the Badoon were those insect type X-Men villains, but I guess that's
those are the Brood.
Else. Those are the Brood. I've definitely heard, because I'm like, where's the Badoon? They keep talking about the Badoon. Who are these? These Schmendricks. But damn it. Right. So I guess these are the Badoon. But I remember the name happening a lot, but I guess I haven't had much experience with them. I thought this was a great. I'll digress from that for a second, because we're on this page where they talk about how She-Hulk was taken to this time a long time ago, shown the end of the world, and that she was responsible. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder if that actually, you know, like, and then the editorial note says, yeah, that happened in 2005. And that's awesome. How many future stories where they are taken to an alternate possible or dark possible future do they ever actually get to? You know?
That's the cool thing about Dan Slott.
Yeah.
Some people give Dan Slott a hard time. But I think he's really good at this. He will take, like, I want to say in his Amazing Spider-Man run, there was the company that eventually, you know, becomes the
Alchemax,
the impetus for Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
And he was able to take two existing entities and merge them so that they become that.
Yeah.
So that when Spider-Man 2099 happens, it's there, it's in place.
That is cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, and he's done the same thing here, where I'm assuming the She-Hulk from 2005 was the one that Dan Slott was writing.
I assume. Yeah.
And he's going back and referring to his own thing that he wrote back in 2005 and actually making it come to fruition. I love that shit.
Yeah, me too. And especially this one. So he did write it. I didn't read that, but I read an article about this saying that he did. I think this one is above and beyond, because that was a time travel story where she goes into the future, you know, and she sees these events, and it's actually been in the real world long enough, even though time passes differently, for them. So yeah, I thought that was great.
There's another great scene here where the Silver Surfer shows up, and he's like, "Wait, what are you talking about? You're the griever at the end of all things. You can't be here."
Too
and she's
soon.
like, "Bitch, why do you think I'm here? I'm at the end of all things. This is where I've been."
Where do you think you are, Norrin?
I thought that was. I was like, "What a reveal!"
Yeah,
I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
And that's another cool, like, maybe not quite the same, or maybe quite the same, depending on if we've seen her before. But yeah, I totally agree. That was awesome. And a truly great payoff to a really classic old Marvel thing that why the Watchers became the Watchers. Like, that was always their deal, was that they gave technology to somebody, some race, and that species misused it in some way, and the Watchers withdrew. But I don't think we ever really got the full story, and this does it justice, right? Like, it's very hard to have this thing that is hinted at, and then tell you what it actually is, and have it live up to that hint, and he does it. I mean, it is a sufficiently large event and well enough told that you're like, oh yeah, the Watchers, I could see them withdrawing from that. And that is the kind of thing that could happen at the dawn of the Marvel Universe, and it fits exactly in with all of their pre-established continuity. I don't know that we ever got the name of the species before. Not that that matters, but just it would be interesting if it was this. And I'm sure if we've gotten the name before, it was this. I really found that satisfying. That thing that is so rarely done, where that gestured at story element is realized, and in a good way. And then you get some Kirby dot eyes from Mr. Fantastic right at the end there, which I'm all about. Yeah, those glowy eyes with the dots. Oh, it's great. Classic.
I am Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and I know everything.
Yeah, that is cool. Classic Reed.
This was fun.
Also, I think they even told us, because I was like, what, the Watcher just came back? What are you doing? Is he gone? Come on now. Did they teleport somewhere? And they told us in the history of when the Watchers were first, before they were called the Watchers, they were called the Luminescents. And a thing that they can do, that they learned, that he mentions as part of their early power, is transform themselves into light and go wherever they want.
Yeah.
That's like one of their earliest capabilities. So I assume that he did that right before, because this is important stuff. He's got to get there and talk to the other Watchers, And what a cool thing, too. Like, we finally come to the thing that the Watchers will intervene for. Yeah. And it fits right in. It's not just like, oh, yeah, we always knew we'd intervene about something. It's like, no. This is the reason that we intervened last time and decided never to do it again.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, very interesting. Very good.
Yeah, I'm way into this.
I'll tell you what I'm not into.
What is it?
Our next book. It's called Savage Spider-Man #1 from Marvel Comics. Written by Joe Kelly with art by Gerardo Sandoval. Spider-Man like you've never seen him before. Peter Parker finds himself at the middle of the biggest, most wide-ranging adventure he's ever had now. And out of the gate, it has turned him into a savage beast. Forget everything you know about Spider-Man. All rules and regulations and quality are out the door, and Peter Parker may never be the same.
I don't want to forget everything I ever knew about Spider-Man.
Boy, oh boy. So this, I didn't realize this until it came out, but if you look at the cover here, Savage Spider-Man exists on top of nonstop Spider-Man.
He's like composite Superman with the half Superman, half Batman.
Except he is half Spider.
Yeah.
But like the title, this was originally the next issue of Nonstop Spider-Man. But they decided to make it Savage Spider-Man #1. So this is a direct continuation of Nonstop Spider-Man. Direct.
Yeah.
It's the very next issue.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even
And-
realize that it was a number one, to be honest with you. I thought that was just one of their crazy things where, you know, they'll cover up the titles.
Oh, I see.
sometimes.
Like maybe it's Amazing Spider-Man, but it's really not. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
This was awful. I was basically we've got Spider-Man and he's on an island, and he's been this drug has turned him into a spider creature that just goes eat, drink, survive, and he just is monosyllabic, much like the Hulk used to be. And the art is not for me. I'm not a big fan of the art. It's very much in line with Joe Madureira, Joe Mad from the 90s, but not as interesting for me.
And I wonder if it would have been if you had seen it in the 90s, right? Is it just like, I've seen this kind of thing?
It's just, and he's fighting a bunch of, I don't even know what they are, zombie type people.
That's a good question.
And then there's this group of folks who show up, and I'm not quite sure who they are. It very much depends. There's a giant brain. I guess that's a giant brain. I don't know.
That's my understand. That's what I'm thinking it is.
It's got to be.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. And I think these people are splitting up the world into different domains of theirs. I don't know.
Yeah.
How they hope to do that.
I'm thinking like Captain Planet.
Yes.
They feel very much like from Captain Planet. And then at the end, Spider-Man spits out from his throat red webbing, which then somehow makes him control the other zombie characters that he was. God, I hated this.
Just like a spider.
When it was done, I was relieved. This was so painful to get through. Luckily, it only took me about 2 minutes.
Yeah, there's not that many words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ones that are boring.
And they're short words. They're very short words in there.
What did you think?
I didn't think that much more kindly about it than you did. Maybe slightly. I remembered Nonstop Spider-Man and reading it for the show and what we all thought about that. And this was very similar, right? This is very much like, here's a bunch of Spider-Man action. That's all you get. It's just this kind of breakneck pace, but not necessarily in a fun way, more of in a like, here's a bunch of panels that flow one to the next in a very heavy kind of set. You know, like the lines and all that are very, it's like glaring.
It's so aggressive.
The style, it's a very aggressive. Yeah, exactly. The motion through the story is very aggressive. And I think that's what they're going for, and they certainly do accomplish that, but I'm not that into it, you know?
You know what it is?
Yeah.
This reminds me of the worst of the 90s Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
Things like maximum clonage. Thank God it didn't have a chromium cover, but like, this feels like the worst of what I had to slog through in the 90s with Spider-Man.
Although I did enjoy maximum clonage at the time, but that's a whole other story.
Maximum clonage, the one shot?
Oh, no. I don't know. I remember it coming out, but I don't remember if I liked it or not.
Maximum clonage was part of the Clone Saga.
Right. I enjoyed the
about
Clone
Maximum
Saga.
Carnage?
No, I enjoyed the Clone Saga.
Okay.
But that was a much larger saga than Maximum Clonage. Maximum Carnage was really good, too. Although Maximum Carnage, as I might have pronounced it at the time, thinking that that's how he pronounced his name.
Carnage.
I did. One of our friends here pointed out why I probably thought that. In Tailspin, there was a character named Don Carnage.
Oh.
And so I never made that connection. It's not like I thought like, oh, that must be how it's pronounced. But I just assumed that it was pronounced Carnage just because it's a character's name. Never realizing, but that is probably why I thought that. If you look at this panel, this page, towards the end where there's a globe and the different characters' names are on the different continents that they hope to rule over. This is a very 90s costume design. You know what I mean? That guy looks like the guy from Asteroid M. He's on the Quiet Council now.
Yes.
Yeah. right?
Yes. Yes.
I forget what they call him, but Exodus maybe. He looks just like him. And they all have kind of that style, in costume design. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of costume design, but it is very much reminiscent of that era.
Yeah,
and
90s aesthetic, yeah.
Yeah, and not one that is known for its great costume designs, but it does have some good ones, And none of these are bad. Like they're not egregious costumes. They just look very much like that. Yeah, he spits out the red stuff through his mouth, like spiders spit out their red stuff, I guess, into when they control other beings.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, as they do.
Yeah, exactly. That never happened to you, but you know that it can.
We're all well aware.
We're well. But and Baron Zemo is around. I don't know why. Like he must be there for some reason. He seems to know why. And it's like he's been in conflict with Spider-Man, which would be maybe more understandable if this was nonstop Spider-Man issue number 5 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
But for this being number 1, I don't think they give any particular reason for the events.
Because you had to have read all of nonstop Spider-Man.
Right. And they give you like a little these people injected Spider-Man with this thing and they dropped him on a desert island with Hydra leader Baron Zemo. So where they
cool.
Oh, we got an island. You know what? I bet it's that island that they talk about later. But where it's going to be like a prison island or something.
I don't know.
But
the Isle of the Damned.
That's the one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I knew what I was getting into when I started this. And so I wasn't that upset about it because I knew that it was going to be this like very motion action heavy, very little for me to get into, and the art style would be and all that stuff. But yeah, this is not a comic that I would choose to read. In a very different way, it feels like a YA kind of thing. And that might be their goal. Like, look, this is something you can hand to anybody who just likes the concept of Spider-Man,
But no, you can't.
Well,
you have to
no. That's
read
their
the
goal.
other 6 issues of nonstop.
Oh, no, sorry. I mean nonstop is something, the story. No, this one, no, definitely not. But just like, if you just like Spider-Man, but you're not in with all of what's happening with Spider-Man, it's a very generic Spider-Man kind of thing that is very light on your involvement in the story, And even this is one that, I don't know if it just changes with age, but when I was a kid, I could pick up part 7 of 9 and be like, this is great, or part 1 of a story and I never find the second part, but I'm still into it,
So, okay. I have the copy here of Nonstop Spider-Man, the trade paperback.
Here we go.
And you've got the first storyline, which is the first 4 issues, which is all written by Joe Kelly and drawn by Chris Bachalo. And then number 5 happens, issue 5, and you have 2 pages that are drawn by Chris Bachalo, and then it jumps to another artist, and that's like maybe 3 pages of that artist, and then it is taken over by Gerardo Sandoval.
A weird choice.
And then the very last issue of the whole series ends with him on the island with Baron Zemo looking like a giant spider.
Sure.
And that is what they've decided to do. And then they were like, let's stop nonstop Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And we'll change it to Savage Spider-Man number 1.
That must be
what
a
piece
marketing
of
thing,
shit.
right?
That sucks. That
must be that must be a non-creative thing. Like some person in marketing was like, hey, this Savage Spider-Man on a Spider-Man island, on some island, it should be a new, and this is marketed to people who are not regular Spider-Man readers, right? I mean, it's maybe marketed to them too, but we're also trying to hook people who are just like curious to pick up a Spider-Man comic. Yeah.
It's just, I would feel differently about it if Nonstop Spider-Man ended the end of the story, and then this Savage #1 starts off the same way it does.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to tell you how we got to this point.
Yeah.
And it actually is a #1.
Right.
This is quite literally issue 7.
Right. Yeah. Which also you would think would be in their best interest, unless the whole comic was completed before that decision was made.
Yeah.
You'd think it would be in their best interest to do that, because then you can make a trade of this or just a single issue, and somebody who wants that kind of, like a lot of the all ages comics are this kind of thing where it's just like essence of character told, like the Thor and Loki one is just like the essence of Thor and Loki is told.
Totally into that.
And that's got to be what, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but I assume that's what they're going for. And one page of like how this happened would suffice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that.
No.
So this sucks. I can't, I'm not going to, nope. I'm done. I'm done.
I mean, I wasn't, honestly, after the first issue that we read of Nonstop, I haven't gotten any of the other issues. But yeah.
It's just weird. I'm the Spidey guy. And it feels weird for me to be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
You done me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not usually that way. Anyway, you can email us your thoughts and opinions if you email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. You can help us out by going to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. You can just come hang out with us Monday nights when we live stream and chat with us. That's the most fun, is when you guys are down there in the chat hanging out with us.
Oh, before we sign off, I just want to add that I checked it with my girlfriend, who has a doctorate in something related to neuroscience in a way, and she confirmed that you do have some brain cells from when you were born still. Like,
yes,
the brain regenerates, but you are not completely remade every 7 years. Now, on a quantum level, you might, like, things pop in and out, right? Mm-hmm. So you might have completely rejuvenated, just like any object might have, but that's a completely different way. Oh, thank you, Mars Comics. Mars Comics says, great show, guys. To us, thanks. And we say thank you to you. I do, anyway.
That's always so nice. Mars always, even after we sign off, sometimes I'll see that she had posted, great show. Yeah. Like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Mars and everyone else, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will talk at you later. Mwah. End broadcast, mother lovers.